Hey, my friend, it's Randy, host of Building Wins Live, and we got my friend Wes in the background pushing buttons and turning dials and making everything look good. Thank you for joining us for the second of three this week. Special edition today. You're going to love our guest today, Larry Levine, and he's a world-renowned author. I've read his book. Once and a half now, I guess, time and a half. I'm partway through again, and we're going to talk about selling from the heart and how he got started and his views on sales. And for all my sales jockeys out there, you're gonna love gonna love what Larry's got to say. So don't go away, and we'll be back in about 7 seconds. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. What's going on, Randy?
Just living the dream of sales, man.
Oh man.
Could you ever believe that? And maybe you did. that we'd grow up someday and be not old but not young, and be doing what we love and loving what we do like this. I mean, it's just kind of it's almost unbelievable at times.
No, it is, and I was on a podcast yesterday. And I said, they asked me how long I've been in sales, and I shared it, and they go, well, when did you decide to get into sales? And I said, well, I think you fall into sales. You're not, somewhere 8, 9, 10 years old, and you tell your parents, hey, guess what? I think when I grow up, right? When I grow up, after I go to college, I'm going to get into sales. I think you just fall into it, and then you just learn to love it.
I think you're exactly right, because I guarantee I grew up on a small little farm, right? And I knew farming is not something I wanted to do, even though I love farmers.
Right.
And a lot of my customer base is services people in the ag community. But it's I never, like you said, and then one day it was funny, Larry, as I was building buildings and doing all that manual labor stuff, which I didn't mind, but it didn't take long before I go, I think I'd rather sell this stuff than be out there in 110 below zero or 100 degrees above zero, doing all that work. So, so you're right. I just kind of stumbled into it by accident. No idea what I was doing, but I guess, I don't know. Here's a price. I guess we'll sell you, right? Hey, Kirsten, see, I knew she would be on first. Kirsten is a great friend of mine. Thank you. From the cold state of Michigan.
Whereabouts in Michigan?
Kirsten, I think she works in Grand Rapids. You should pop on there a minute. I think she's somewhere near Grand Rapids, I think. But up in the
I've been to Grand Rapids a couple times.
Have you? Yeah. Nice city. Puamo.
Oh yeah, like I really know where that is.
Yeah, you know where that is.
Tell me Grand Rapids. Okay.
Yeah, you know. Larry, if you knew where Puamo was, I would think you're
sorry.
psychic.
Hey, sorry, Kirsten. Sorry, but
when Kirsten leaves town, there's 5 people left in Puamo. So they had to hyphenate the school there, because that's an area that I'm sort of from. So it's Puamo, Westphalia. So they had to hyphenate 2 schools to have enough for like I think 20 people in their school. I'm probably being a little facetious, but near Lansing. So yeah. So Larry, thank you for being on. I know you're a busy guy.
You're welcome.
Man, love what you do, and so I always like to start with for anybody that might be silly enough not to know who Larry Levine is by now. Who is Larry? Give me a little backstory on who Larry is, if you don't mind.
By the way, I'm glad you said backstory, because I'm just a big believer you really don't know anyone until you know their backstory. But I spent, gosh, my whole entire career in one sales channel. So I sold office technology. I sold copiers my whole life in the LA marketplace.
Okay.
Just a dog eat dog, highly competitive sales channel. And didn't really know what I wanted to do when I graduated college. I knew I wanted to get into sales. I write about in the very beginning of Selling from the Heart is I actually went to school. Right when I graduated high school, I wanted to be a pharmacist. And because I'd worked in a pharmacy most of high school and a vast majority of college. And something happened. I couldn't pass freshman chemistry. Just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Just for the life of me, I couldn't pass freshman chemistry. I said, well, if I can't do this, pharmacy career is that was short lived, right? That took all of like one semester. I said, well, what's the next best thing I can do? Well, I knew I was good with people. One of my gifts is I believe we all have a gift. One of my biggest gifts is being able to connect and relate to people really well. And I said, well, why don't I just flip the switch and just become a pharmaceutical sales rep? So now I'm going to date myself. So, back in the 80s, that was the glamorous job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, I'll just do that. Graduate college, get 2 degrees in health science and marketing. And then all of a sudden I have no job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going through on-campus interviews and I wasn't getting hired because I didn't have sales experience. But how are you going to get sales experience if you don't get hired?
Right.
And I fell into copier sales only because I remember that my father had said that he had ran across somebody who said, if you can sell and last 1 year in the copier channel, you're worth your weight in gold. Now you can parlay that into other sales careers. But just how I was raised is I was raised with career-minded folks and I didn't see them job hop.
Right.
And I wasn't going to job hop. So I spent my whole entire career in one sales channel, 28 years selling copiers.
Wow.
I think I've seen it all and then some in the copier channel. I made a very, very, very good living for myself and my family. And I carved a really good niche because I did something I think that I see most people really struggle with. I flipped it on its head and I made relationships the center of everything I did. It wasn't about me and it wasn't about product and it wasn't about my company. It's how well that I can connect and relate to my customers. And I doubled down on relationships. And I
Nice.
made the whole entire experience in working with me something that they would remember. And in doing so, I was rewarded because people started talking and people started repurposing stories. And before you know it, my business grew. And that's what I was noted for. I was noted for wearing my emotions on my sleeves and building deep, meaningful relationships with every single one of my clients.
Yeah, perfect. So that was the thing, and I mentioned that I'd read your book on Kindle, and enjoyed it immensely, by the way. And
Thank you.
it's very yeah, yes. Kirsten says amen to that exactly. This it's so. Yeah, I've been doing this 4+ decades in my industry, and like you, I didn't jump around the industry. I stumbled into it by accident, and next thing I know, I'm selling stuff, and I spent a little bit of time buying, which was good because I learned the other side of the desk a little bit. But I also knew that the draw to get back out and help to bring people together and bring product together and build relationships and it's funny and I can tell you feel the same way as I work a lot, but God, I don't work at all because I just love what I do so much, right? A little saying I say sometimes: love what I do and do what I love, because God, it's just a good time, good time. And if you treat people, you're dealing with friends. Like one just popped up, Josh Chamberlain. Thanks, buddy, for coming on. Um, Josh was on the show a few weeks ago. He's the sales manager for one of my companies, or not one of my customers, as a matter of fact,
Nice.
customer friends. And um,
Hey, Josh, I
so
haven't even gotten started yet, but I appreciate it. Give me 5 more minutes and watch what happens.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant. Yeah, we're just at the edge of brilliance right now, on the precipice. I can't believe I said that live because that's a word I usually can't
Okay,
say.
no, hey, Randy, don't even ask me to spell that word. I have no clue.
Well, I was working in my office here where I'm videoing this, or where we're doing this, and my wife, who runs my office and runs my agency for me, she goes, "What'd you just say?" And I go, I'm trying to text something to a customer, and I'm doing voice to text because I can't spell it."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I use a lot of big words I can't spell sometimes, which is most words. But anyway, so you got started. So you got started in copies. You never left, and you built a career, and then you just decided, I figured it out. I'm going to write a book and start a podcast cast, and
Oh,
so
okay. I wish it went like that, Randy, but it
okay,
didn't. So,
okay.
I'll give
So
you
I
the
was making you
story.
sound good, like it
No,
was just boom, boom.
it's all good. I own up to my stories. So, um, it was 20. So it was the summer of 2013. So I was with the same, like I said, I'd spent my whole entire career in the copier channel. I was 5.5 years with one dealership. I was on the independent side. So, family owned, singly
Hmm.
owned copier dealership. And I'd left that dealership after 5.5 years, and I went to a startup. And when I say startup, it was a startup. I was the first employee, no customers.
Wow.
And I remember it because my son was 2 weeks old, and my son's 28. His birthday's today. And I still remember it. I walked in and I go, okay, I knew what I was walking into. But I'm a big believer in this, that we have these periods in our life where we either transform ourselves or somebody else will transform us, meaning they will career adjust us. And I decided to career adjust myself first. And I went to a startup, had a great run there. At about the 5-year mark, I bought in and we expanded the copier dealership throughout Southern California. And about that 18, 19-year mark, though we're still friends to this day, it was just wearing thin. And I created an exit plan for myself. And I stayed on for about another 6 more months.
Okay.
And then I went to go work on the direct side of life in the copier channel with a Japanese OEM. And I walked into a zero-based territory, not a single customer again. So now here I am, right? 20 some odd years later, the same things happened to me, but at 48 years old.
Hmm.
And I share this, you understand where all of this is heading. And at 48 years old, I walk into another zero-based opportunity, this time as a corporate major account person. I'm the number 18. So I'm the lowest on the low on a corporate major account team. That said, by the way, you have to go out and find all your business. And by the way, your quota is $840,000. There's your desk. There's your laptop. There's a couple days of onboarding. Develop your list of 50 targeted accounts. Have at it. I'm keeping it simple for the sake of the story.
Right, right.
And so what I did blew the major account manager's mind. I had developed a 4-page business plan, and I said, this is how you're going to hold me accountable to growing business. The person goes, yeah, right. I've seen this story before. And in first 90 days, I goose egged. I knew I would. Made my first sale maybe 90, 95 days into my tenure. The next year, I went from number 18 to number 2.
Wow.
I sold $1.6 million of net new business, integrating the power of what I write about and selling from the heart, authenticity, building real relationships, connecting networks, and bringing meaningful value to my network. And then all of a sudden at 50 years old, I get, hey, Kellen, yeah, you will see me tonight. And at 50 years old, I get sideswiped and I'm fired. Came out of right field, completely took me off guards the spring of 2015. And that's the first time ever I got fired, ever. Not even when I was 16 and 17 years old, screwing off in high school jobs. Never got fired. And I had to figure out what to do with my life. And there's 2 people I hold near and dear to me that really helped me. My wife and Daryl. Daryl Amy's my podcast partner at Selling from the Heart, my partner at Selling from the Heart. They both said, hey, you know what? Maybe this is the time of your life where you go do something else. And I didn't know what something else was, but I'm a big believer that stuff like this happens for a reason. And it was right then and there, I doubled down on myself and I said, I'm just going to figure this out. And I threw 100-pound ankle weights on and I just dove headfirst into entrepreneurship. Never had spoken in front of a group, a mass group of people before, never started a podcast, never had written a book, never had coached, trained salespeople before. I had a solo gig for 28, right, almost 30 years in the copier channel. But again, I'm not afraid to try new things. And I thought, I'm just going to dive into this thing head first. Whatever happens, happens. But I have a story and I know how this transformed my career. Might as well try it. And I did. I went right back into the copier channel and I started coaching and training copier leaders, their salespeople on what I did in the copier channel for a good decade. And that's how how I integrated the power of social and authenticity and growing networks and all that. And I'll tell you, I'm going to throw my hands up on this, Randy, and I struggled with it. I absolutely struggled with it. And if there's any entrepreneurs out there that said they've never struggled, they're lying, because everybody struggles.
Yep.
And I still remember this as plain as day. It would have been about the springtime of 2017. I was within an inch, literally an inch of just throwing the towel in and saying, I'm going to go back to being a VP of sales. And I'll even go back into the freaking copier channel. And something inside me, besides, I didn't want to let my wife down and I didn't want to let Daryl down. Something inside me says, you know what? We got to just break out of this copier channel, a little small niche market. Let's start a podcast. And I still remember it as plain as day. I know exactly where I was. I was getting ready to speak at an event in the Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas. And I'm having coffee with Daryl because he was there to watch. And I said, hey, Daryl, you want to start a podcast? He goes, no, not really. No. And I go, well, this might be a great way to get our message out and just get it out into a broader audience.
Right.
And he goes, still no desire. Really, I mean, and then all of a sudden he stopped and he goes, I tell you what, Larry, he goes, if you come up with a really cool name of this podcast, I'm in. If not, you're going to fly solo on this one. And within 30 seconds, I said, we're going to call it Selling from the Heart.
Wow.
And he goes, I love it. And he goes, after he spit his coffee out at me, he goes, where the heck did you pull that one from? And I said, that's me. That's how I carried myself. I'm a highly emotional guy. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. I build deep, meaningful relationships with people. I can hug my clients. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to bring authenticity to the forefront. The next week, we started the podcast. That would have been the springtime of 2017. He knew I wanted to write a book. My wife knew I wanted to write a book and put a plan together. And again, I've never written a book before, ever. Had no idea what to expect. Had no expectations in this. All of a sudden, it's the summertime of 2017. Daryl goes, hey, you got to write a book. And he hijacks me from, we're going to meet, we're going to go offline, and we're just going to just think about, hey, where we're going to take this business. So I fly from LA to Houston, Houston to Little Rock. When I get to Little Rock, he goes, change of plans. I can't tell you what the deal is. I go, fine. Hop in his car, and he drives me from Little Rock back to Austin, Texas. And in that period of time, he convinces me to write a book. And he goes, well, what are you going to call the book? I go, Selling from the Heart. And he goes, can't do it. Podcast is named Selling from the Heart. I go, no, we're going to build a movement around this. And he goes, well, we just can't call it Selling from the Heart. But what's the subtitle going to be? And I'm a sales geek at heart, Randy. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a sales geek at heart. And I go, how your authentic self sells you. And he goes, I freaking love this thing. And I started writing the book in November of 2017. Book came out in September 2018. I had no idea what to expect. And in the span of 3 years, my life's turned upside down. We built a worldwide movement around bringing authenticity, sincerity, and substance to the forefront. The whole point behind this is you're never too old to try new things. You don't know what cards you're going to get dealt, but we have to be willing to transform ourselves. That's the story. That might be the shortest I've told the story.
But distinct and right to it, and that's pretty impressive. And I like I've mentioned earlier, I've read the book. And anybody, Kirsten just said that she just purchased it on Audible.
Oh, thank
so good
you.
job.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good job. And catch a couple people. Barry's a sales guru friend of mine. We chat every day. He's got a lot of good stuff happening too. And of course, you're going to talk to Kellen and my friend Kellen and Shell tonight. So
yeah, Kellen, you're getting me at the end of the day, Kellen.
I'm gonna try to wear him out for you, Kellen, so it'll be easy for you. Yeah, Kellen and Shell both, we go way back, because you may or may not know that they and myself and Wes are all in the same mastermind group, the Mega Minds together. Oh, there we are. There's Shell and I and Wes and Brian and Sean and.
Oh, I see Sean.
Yeah, you know Sean. Yeah, you've been on Sean. Yeah, and do you know Brian Monahan on the far? Well, on the right
no,
as we do it.
I know of him.
Yeah. So we, and that was real. You talk about relationships. It's just a quick side note to that, since Wes popped that picture up there. We had known each other for this group and probably another 15, 18 people for a year and a half. at the start of this whole COVID world, right?
Uh,
And we videoed and chatted every day, 4 or 5 times a day, and held each other accountable and told stories and hey, I'm going to do this video. Do you think this is any good or not? And just really help each other. But the funny thing is that really helped me understand a little bit hybrid world that I try to live in now with the old school road warrior thing that I do, but along with virtual is we met up in it was funny is we were going to meet in Cincinnati. I had a trade show there, and I just put out I'm going to be in Cincinnati, and all of a sudden all four of these other people are going, we're close enough, we're coming.
yeah.
And the next thing you know, we're sitting and having drinks and food and telling stories. But my point of all this, never met in person. We walk in and we're bro hugging
Yeah.
and we're like we were old high school classmates, right? And my only point of that is that's the power of virtual, the power of just all the technology that we have today to work with, that you're working with every day, and that I'm doing a lot more than I used to, right? It was like when I first met Wes, outside of realizing that he was way bigger than I was the fact that it just I felt like I knew him for 30 years, right?
Yeah, there's something to be said around what's going on right now. And we all might look at this and say, hey, the last couple years, we can fill in the blanks with all the adjectives and all the words we want to use to describe how we've been feeling and what's been going on over the last couple years. But I will tell you this has brought people a lot closer if you open up your mind to the power of connection. And it just warms my heart to hear the story about how all you guys met and you go face to face, because a vast majority of my clients, I personally have never met.
Okay.
But we have built deep, meaningful relationships through the power of social, behind a camera. And to me, it's about bringing intentionality to the forefront and opening up your mind to the possibilities of what can happen. And literally, one of my best clients here at Selling from the Heart, I met for the first time during the fall.
Really?
Yeah. We get into deep conversations, meaningful conversations. We introduce people to each other. And we've only met one time.
Yeah. Yep. It is an amazing thing. It really is, and it's cool to hear you talk about the same experience, because as as kind of the old school road warrior that I still like to think of myself as, I love getting out to trade shows and glad handing and bro hugging everybody and grabbing a brewski and a burger and going to their kids' school open house or whatever with them, and you're in town. But boy, you can, and I found, and I'd love to hear your aspect on this, because maybe I'm all wet, but I found that what I learned over the couple of years of not being able to travel as much as I used to is I was able to really use these as force multipliers. Yeah, so when I'm traveling, I'm still doing this. I'm jumping in a room. I'm scheduling 2, 3. Next month I'm going to be at a trade show, and I'm staying overnight because Ken Walls is going to be on the show, and I didn't think I could get to the airport and be anywhere in time, so I'll just stay over to be able to do the show from the hotel room. My only point of all that, Larry, is that you get to broaden and expand our ability to multiply what we do with the use of this, right? Virtual, if you will. And I'm sure, obviously, you spoke to that. You see the same thing.
Hands down, it's I remember this would have went back 2019. So I had lunch. This would have been around Thanksgiving of 2019. I had lunch here in Southern California with a podcast guest. This person had read Selling from the Heart. They had come on the podcast, and we lived maybe 30 minutes apart. And we decided to meet down around the beach in Southern California and just grab lunch. Mm-hmm. And this person said something that was really powerful. Now, this was pre-COVID. Isn't it interesting? We're going to start dating. It just dawned on me. We're going to start dating things pre-COVID COVID and post-COVID and date stamp things. So we already know
Exactly.
that pre-COVID is anything prior to 2020 COVID, right? I mean, it's
Yep.
nevertheless, but
Exactly.
but this person had said something that's really powerful, and I want everyone to key in on this. This person went on to say this: those salespeople that nurture, grow, and influence their networks will future-proof their business.
That's
Not more than what? 3.5 months later, the world turns upside down.
yes.
And I'm a big believer that if you can invest in your networks, you'll be able to collect on your networks. And we can connect in so many different ways. I got into a really interesting conversation just a couple of days ago. And in fact, I wrote about it as well. And I popped it out on LinkedIn. I said, right now, it's never so easy to connect with people, but yet it's so hard to truly connect to people. And to me, it's about bringing intentionality to the forefront and being congruent. And what I mean by being congruent is the same way you act online, is that congruent with the same way you act
Right.
face to face? So those people who get to know me online, who then get a chance to meet me face to face, you get what you get. I don't
Mhm.
hide anything, with one exception. I don't swear online, and I might drop a swear word face to face, but I will not drop a swear word online. But there's power behind it. We live in this world today where we're all networked.
Mhm.
And that's what I want people to realize. We communicate in so many different fashions. We can grow our business in so many different fashions. Here's the thing is I believe the reason why the movement around selling from the heart's happened in such a short period of time, and I pinch and poke myself all the time, is because I educate, engage, and excite people into conversations, and I'm humanized myself online. And I don't pretend to be somebody that I'm not. And you get what you get. So that when I do have the opportunity to meet people face to face, I go, it's exactly who I thought you were.
Right. Yep. No, and that's a great point, because you're this momentum that you've got. There's a funny point. They're funny, not funny, but just interesting. Just earlier today, you had a post up on LinkedIn and Facebook and probably elsewhere about the guy driving in France, right?
Yeah.
With your pod. I guess he listened to the Audible, I would assume, in
Yeah.
his car.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's like I said, this movement is going worldwide, and you know why? You know why? It's because what you just said. Everybody gets. I can tell talking to you here, Larry, and listening to you on other podcasts, and you are truly, and if we ever get a chance to meet someday, I'd love to do that in person, but I can guarantee you that what you're saying is accurate. It would be this. I know Larry right now doing this for 30 minutes now. I know Larry very well, right? I mean, as well as we could in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
And
no, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, when I saw a couple of things, I just want to respond on that. When I saw that picture, I mean, I freaking cried. I literally I shed a tear this morning when I saw it. I go, how cool is that? It's a great picture. Had
right
no idea what was on the signs because it was all in French,
on French, I
but
didn't either.
I had no freaking clue.
I was
But
looking
I
for
go,
fries, but I didn't see that. That's the only thing I know.
but I always there
Oh,
you
there
go.
it
Hey,
is.
thanks,
There it
Wes.
is.
And so here's the point behind this is I always say I'm just a guy, right? I just happen to be a guy who stands true to his convictions, who believes in all of his heart that sales has been overcomplicated for a long time. I don't pretend to know everything, but I do know this. We've all been given a gift. My gift in sales forever and a day was the ability to connect and relate to people.
Mhm.
And it's my ability to keep things simple. I never overcomplicated sales. Sales is so overcomplicated now. It's just crazy. But I'm a big believer if you can't do the basic things in sales correctly, you'll never be able to do the big things in sales correctly. I
Right.
just doubled down on doing the basics. They worked for me. They may not work for anyone else. But I do know this, if you struggle to do the basics, you're going to struggle throughout your whole entire sales career. But one of the things, and here's the other thing is I just kept willing, and I was deeply committed to always becoming the best version of me. I hold myself to a higher degree of standards than I think most people do to themselves. And I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back or anything like that. That's what lights my fire. That's why I get
Mhm.
up in the morning, to see what I can do every single day to improve myself. Does it wear me into the ground? Hell yeah, it wears me into the ground. But that's why I do what I do. And that's my big commitment, to bring this back to the sales world. And I write about it in Selling from the Heart all the time. There's I don't mind going toe to toe with people on this. There's a huge difference between a sales rep and a sales professional.
Mhm.
I mean, think about it, whether that be in your industry, right? Or whether that be the industry I came out of. Hell, I sold copiers, and copiers break. And it's
Right.
got a bad rap and a black eye, right? To me, I always say, if you want to get into sales, don't go into copier sales and don't go into used car sales, right? Because you're at like the rock bottom of rock bottom. But what I made a commitment to was this: I'm going to walk with integrity. I'm going to stand tall. I'm not going to BS anybody. I'm going to give it to them straight. I'm going to enhance the experience better than anybody else. And I'm going to give them an experience from start to finish that's going to be the best they've ever seen. And by the way, I'm going to ask them a ton of questions, and where can I improve? And I've parlayed that throughout 30 years. I parlayed that into Selling from the Heart. I didn't sign up for this, right? If I didn't get fired at 50, who knows where I'd be? I don't know.
Mhm.
But I'm a big believer things happen for a reason.
Right.
And I just said, all the mess that happened to me at 50, I'm turning into my message. Why? Because the sales profession needs this. The sales profession's got a black eye. There's no trust. There's lack of credibility. People want to brush all these soft things under the rug. And I'm here to say, right? Soft skills, these people skills, will yield hard dollars.
Right.
You got to be willing to put it up on a business pedestal, which means you got to get comfortable with who you are. And you got to bring it to the forefront, because if you can do this, it will forever change conversations, connections, and your sales results.
Yeah. And that's awesome stuff. Barry said he fact checked you already. He said this is great. He's a great guest. So if Barry says you're
Uh,
okay, believe me.
Barry, you're awesome.
Yeah. You didn't pay him, did you? Because he's really not worth that much. No, I'm just kidding.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Barry. But well, thank you, Barry. That was good. I knew that Barry was going to be on here today, because I knew he and Kirsten and Josh and a few others would jump on and love what you bring to the table, because Barry and I was together in Nashville just 3 weeks ago to a trade show, and we had some chances over an adult beverage or two to discuss, just life and sales, because we're both lovers of this business, and it's interesting how what you hit on a few minutes ago. I want to circle back. Maybe the last thing we'll do before we run you out of time is, you know, I've always talked about, and you just hit on it, is be that authentic self, because you know what? I had a young guy that I did a little mentoring with, and that sounds way bigger than it was, because he was very young and dumb, and so I didn't have to do a lot. But but he's become very successful, and he said, "Well, okay, so tell me how I should do this." And I said, "No, I'll tell you my thoughts, my ideas, but I said, here's what you got to understand." And and I said, "You can't do it as well as I do." And he looks at me, and I says, "Because you can't be me, because you're not me. But
Yeah.
I also can't be you, because you're going to do you better." And I think that's a mistake. I'm going with this, is a lot of sales guys, I think sometimes, or girls, make the mistake of, what is this perfect salesman, salesperson, sales rep, sales pro? And they try to take on that characteristic of what they think it is, right? And what it is Larry Levine, Randy Chafee, Barry Brockstrom, right? That's
Yeah.
the in what is, does that make sense at all? Am I?
No, it does. And I'm just trying to, so I'm going to take this in a couple different directions, but
Mhm.
I totally get where you're going with this. Is, first of all, um, I think people throw around the word authenticity way too much. and some people may not like what I'm going to get ready to say, but that's okay.
Bring it on.
Is you really don't know what authenticity truly means until you take a journey to your heart, until you're willing to open up the cupboards and look inside and really uncover who you are. And I want people to stop and think about that for a minute. And the reason why I'm saying this is I'm 57, so I turned 57 in November this past year.
Hmm.
In one calendar year in 2021, I worked harder on my heart than I ever have, ever. And I took journeys that I didn't think I was capable of. Why am I sharing this? Because it helped transform myself even more. We're all authentic. We're all authentic human beings. And I don't have a PhD in any of this stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, I have a PhD from getting the crap kicked out of me selling copiers, but I don't have a PhD in all this stuff. It's just I'm keenly aware of who I am in my surroundings. But authenticity is a lifestyle. You can't just wake up one day and say, hey, I think I'm going to be authentic today. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'm just going to throw it back in the cupboard. But until you really understand who you are, you truly will struggle to really uncover what authenticity really means. And I'm going to use the word mirror and mimic just for a second.
Okay.
This is what I see young salespeople do. In fact, even some of the ones that are tenured will even do the same thing. They'll mirror and mimic somebody who they think is successful. Well, what works for Randy or what works for Larry may not work for anybody else. And people will struggle with it. And I write about it in Selling from the Heart when I start talking about sales chaos. But the mirror never lies,
Right.
except for the person looking into it. Think about that one for a second. Mirror never lies, except for the person looking into the mirror. And so if you want to become the best version of yourself, do the work. The inner work will fuel the outer success you have. And here's my challenge to everybody who's listening and everyone who may catch this later is if you struggle to do the inner work, if you're not willing to do the inner work, you will have intermittent levels of success. You'll peak and valley. You will peak and valley. You will peak and valley. Why do I say this? Because I peaked and valleyed all the time until I went down the journey of really uncovering who I was. I've uncovered more of myself in writing Selling from the Heart and bringing this to the forefront than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s combined.
Wow.
And so, I'll throw down the gauntlet and challenge everybody because I know everyone wants to drive more sales results and they want to become better versions of themselves. That's just who we are. It's innate in who we are. Then do the work.
Right.
Do the work and commit to yourself. Look in the mirror, right? One of my favorite sayings, and I got head trash just like everybody else has head trash. But I'm a big believer in this. The stories in your head, the stories that you tell yourself will be the stories that play out in your life. What comes into your mind comes out in your life. And that's why I commit to working harder on myself and cleaning my head full of head trash and just getting rid of it. I don't care if you sell wireless things. I don't care if you sell roofing. I don't care if you sell copiers. Want to be successful and you want to 2x your sales results, 2x how you work on yourself.
Wow. Good stuff. Barry again, he just said you had a home run, and I think he's 100% right. That is.
Oh, thanks, dude.
That's some good. That's some good. Well, Larry, I know you got several more things this afternoon because you're a busy guy. I appreciate you taking some time to be on with me, more than you know. As we kind of wrap down, Wes Weiss likes to remind me. There it is. He's quicker than I am. He's so fast. One of these days I'm going to mess with him, and I'm going to come up with something totally different than what he pops up just because he's fun to mess with. But give me a should ask question. What did we miss today that you're going, man, Randy, I wish you'd asked me, but you didn't, you big dummy?
Well, you
That's
wouldn't.
kind of a trick.
No, I mean, you could ask what my favorite sports team is, but I mean,
I could ask that.
you
Let's
you
go
could
there.
have.
I could have, but I didn't. But now I will.
Okay, so here, hey, you're welcome, Josh. So here's what's interesting. Right smack in the middle of my LinkedIn profile is this. Yeah, same here, Kirsten. Is I said if you want to get to my heart, talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Mm,
So right, you can see over my shoulder. I mean, besides the selling from the heart stuff, you can see a Dodger sign, but
yep, yep.
most of my office is all just decked out in Dodgers, and I
Nice.
live, eat, breathe, sleep Dodger blue. So there you
So
go.
no Don Drysdale fan then, huh?
Oh, I know who he is, but that
Yeah,
was before my
that was way
time.
before you. Well, I'm a little older than you, but not old enough to. I remember the name. Okay, maybe I better back up on that one a little bit here. But well, awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I'm a this year's Rams fan.
Oh, so did you jump on the? Are you jumping on the wagon, dude?
Well, I am. I see. I got a problem with this Super Bowl. Then we will get you out of here. But I have a problem because I my two favorite quarterbacks weren't already in because Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. And I just like Joe Burrow and a lot of my sales territory. Ohio is a great, incredible state for me, and so I'm in Ohio all the time. I stay in Cincinnati. I stay down by the ballpark and eat and have dinner and drinks down by the ballpark. So I'm very familiar with that whole area. So I'm a little bit of a fan. But growing up, even though I live in southern Florida now and travel north, I grew up in Michigan,
Okay.
and so I grew up a unfortunately a Lions fan, and so I watched Stafford for years struggle, and then we all knew he was an incredible talent, but it was just one of those scenarios where he was never probably going to win there, and so there's a big part of me that I want to see him do well because I just like the kid. But so yeah, so I'm torn between. But the one thing I watched last weekend when I watched a bunch of the playoffs, I really enjoy watching sports. And some of my favorite bowl games, I'm a big University of Michigan fan. Go Blue, Kirsten. But and I love watching my teams play. But I enjoy football probably more when my teams aren't playing because I just get to watch football. You know, I
Oh,
want.
I hear what you're saying. So I live in Thousand Oaks, California, and the Rams practice 2 miles from my house. That's where their camp's at. And even
Okay.
there's summer camps there throughout the year. That's where they practice. A lot of the players live in Thousand Oaks.
Okay.
And the last Rams game, I'm pacing the house. I mean, I could not sit still, but that's just me. But there's just right before we go, there's something I want to say, and it kind of ties into sales, but you just triggered it when you brought up my beloved Rams. Is I'm a big Sean McVay fan.
Hmm.
I just love the head coach of the Rams. And, they were doormats for a while. And I've been a Rams fan because I've grown up in Southern California my whole life. And so I follow all LA sports teams. I followed them to St. Louis, welcomed them back, and so forth. But the whole dynamics of the Rams changed when they brought Sean McVay in. And there's 3 C's that he changed. And, before we go, key into these 3 C's, and I would challenge everybody who's listening and watching to bring these 3 C's to your clients and watch what happens to relationships. And here's the 3 C's that I just see on the Rams, and it plays out. It's culture, cohesion, right?
Hmm.
Culture, cohesion, and chemistry.
Yeah.
They
The
have
three
those
C's.
3 C's
Yeah.
going on like no tomorrow. So here's what I challenge everybody to do. Think about it, this afternoon, the rest of the week. What's the culture between me and my clients? Do I even understand what it is? If not, figure it out. Is there cohesion between me and my clients? And then if you say, yes, there is, then I'd ask you, what makes you think there's cohesion? And then chemistry. Is there chemistry between my clients and I? And if you answer yes, then why do you think there's chemistry? And I believe if you bring those 3 C's in and you think about it, watch what starts happening to your client relationships and watch what happens to repeat sales and referrals.
Yeah. I love it. The three C's. I know Barry's writing it down. I can see him. I can tell. Well, oh, we got Wes in the background.
Well,
Wes is making notes
hey,
on his little sticky notes.
you know, we can hang out and chat forever, but I see what Barry says. He goes, Lions fans didn't know there was any of them left. Well, at least you got Jared Goff, cough, cough, but nevertheless.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. There we go. Well, Larry, again, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, it's greatly appreciated. It was every bit. Yeah, that's a lie. It was way better than I thought, even, and I knew it was be great. I appreciate you. Appreciate your
Oh,
book.
it's my pleasure.
Appreciate everything you do, and just keep bringing the good stuff to us. And we'll keep reading and listening and learning from the wise one himself, Larry Levine. Levine, how's
Oh
that?
no, I thank you. I appreciate it. I had a great time.
It was great, my friend. Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, buddy. See ya. All right, that was some good stuff, as I knew it would be. So if you get a chance, if you're watching this on replay, man, give me some shout outs. Let me know what you think about Larry. Buy his book. You must buy his book. It's good stuff. I guarantee you'll love it and you'll reread it over and over and over. I'm on my second go around right now because and I'm picking up stuff every day, so it's good stuff. So I appreciate him coming on, and we're going to finalize this week of 3, which I won't be doing again for a while because I do kind of have to do my other gig now and then. But hey, thank you, David Lorenz. I appreciate you being on, brother. This week on Friday, we're going to go back to the industry, the roofing industry in general. That, as most of you all know, I live and breathe in. Heidi Ellsworth, who's a podcaster, host of Roofers Coffee Shop. These guys are the voice of the roofing industry. You do not go anywhere in the roofing world and not see the folks set up. You do not go any trade show that they're not there doing a live podcast from the shows. I had the honor, and it really was an honor to be on with Heidi on her podcast. I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, and we had a great conversation. And so we're going to chat the roofing industry, how she got into it, how we use technology, and just everything roofing. And we're going to do that on Friday at 3 Eastern time, and you will love Heidi. I guarantee it. So until then, remember to just seize the day, live it, love it, own it, and make today your best day ever until tomorrow. Who is that smart guy that wrote that? That's a brilliant statement. I'm going to say that again someday. Anyways, make it huge. Love y'all. Thanks. And we'll see you Friday.